What's up YouTube, and welcome to another Porsche 928 project video. Today I'm going to show you how to change the sunroof switch on a 1988 Porsche 928 S4 model. As far as I understand, the switch is the same on pretty much all models up to, I believe, 89, so the whole first run of 928 should use the same part. This is our new replacement switch. What I can say that I've learned about now that I've owned the Porsche for a few months is that they do their electrical switch wiring very different than what I'm accustomed to with older BMWs. With the BMW, basically, if the switch goes bad, you just pop off the switch and it has a connection and you're done. The Porsche, though, they wire all their switches into the wiring loom, and then your actual connection is at the opposite side. So you have to undo all the wiring to replace a simple switch. I've run into this with a few switches on the car. So that's basically what the new part looks like. I'm going to show you how to get the old one out. I actually learned a couple tricks along the way here as I was working on it that I thought I would pass along. Didn't see any other videos on this process, so hopefully this helps somebody out. So I'm going to go inside the car here. I realize it's a little dark, so I'll get my light out. We'll show you the switches first, kind of where everything starts out. And I've already popped them, so I'm going to explain that here in a moment. But basically, just to give you the order, you've got your left-hand side window switch, or driver's side for me. This is the sunroof switch here. The next one is your rear wiper switch, and then your right-hand side passenger window is the last switch. So in order to get these out, a very important piece to know is you don't want to pry from the top. What's going to happen if you do that is the cap will come off, and then all these little pieces inside of it are going to go flying everywhere. So what you actually need to do is pop it out from underside, and that's what I've already started the process of doing here. So I'll explain that in just a moment. First thing I did was obviously disconnect the battery. You don't necessarily want to leave electrical connections live while you're working on all this stuff. So I would recommend that, is disconnect the battery. Then I've gone inside and pulled out the inner panel for the passenger side to give me more access. So I'll grab the part here and show you. It's this, decorative carpeted panel that goes in there normally, and it's very simple to take out. Really, all you need to do this job is a couple screwdrivers and a knife, which I'm going to show you here in a second. So just to get this piece out, it's just two simple screws. They do have washers on them if your car still has them, so make sure that you retain those. One is very close to the inner side of the panel here, and the other one mounts a little bit lower down there. You can see where that one is. Some people will say that you need to take out the package tray to get this panel out. I don't find that to be the case. I've taken this panel out multiple times. As long as you pull down and then back, it'll slide out without having to remove the packaging tray. So now that I do have that out of the way, you can kind of see what's going on inside of here. It's pretty tight with all the wiring down here, and all the sunroof and window switch wires are typically bundled kind of right here toward the right hand side. It's very important that when you do reinstall this, that you do keep that orientation, because if they go too far to the center, it's actually going to get in the way of your shifter if you have the automatic transmission. So what I would do is recommend trying to trace the sunroof switch first. The way I did that was I actually started popping out the switches from underneath. So another thing I read is that some people were saying, oh, you have to take out the whole center console to get the switches out. I did not find that to be the case, and I'll show you my little shortcut here. So if you have small fingers like I do, you can actually reach up underneath here, and that first passenger's window switch, if you just apply a little pressure from underneath, it'll simply pop straight out. Not straight out, it's still wired up, obviously, but it will pop out of the way to give you a little bit more leverage. What I did from there is there's honestly like a little barrier in between this switch and the rear window switch. So I actually took a just simple flat blade screwdriver, just a small one, and then you can get just enough leverage in there to pop that second switch from underneath. Same thing, lift up on it from underneath, not from the top. And then once I got that rear window switch out, that actually gave me a little clearance from the top that I could reach in and pop out the third switch. The sunroof switch is what I was actually trying to get to. So hopefully that method works for you. It's a little bit simpler. It didn't really take a whole lot of time, just a little bit of planning. And that way you don't have to remove the console. And then once you go to reinstall the switches, they'll just simply snap right back into place. It won't be a problem at all. So what I ran into here is trying to trace the wire Because again, you have all those 3 or 4 wires right here that are bundled together, and they all look about the same. So I just kind of wiggled them until I found the one that's the sunroof switch. For me, it was the one that was actually all the way to the farthest to the right. That may not be the case on your car. And I just traced it back. It is pretty long, and you just kind of follow it along here. Move my light a little bit, and then ultimately for my car, it led me back to a bright yellow harness here in the back, almost just directly underneath the packaging tray. So if you look right here, you can see the harness. The new one, the switch connector I have is actually white, so yours might be white, I'm just calling that out. But this will simply just unplug once I got that out. And then the only other thing I noticed I need to do, this is why I mentioned you might need a little knife, is that my wires had never been separated. So all these wires were actually bundled together by a zip tie, probably by the factory right here. So what I'm going to do is, unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut the zip tie because that connector won't go in between there. It's too tight to pull it out. But once I cut the zip tie, I can separate just the sunroof switch and then pull the wiring out for that old switch. Then simply it'll be a matter of feeding the new wire through, adding a new zip tie back in place, plugging it in, and testing it out. Hopefully this is all going to work. So not a real complicated process. I think what I'll do here is cut, because I do need to actually make the cut to that wiring harness, and then I'll come back with any updates if there's anything else of note. But hopefully that explains at least how to get everything apart for starters. So please pause here for the break. Alright, so time for an update. I'm going to kick this off by saying sometimes there's a right way to do things, and then sometimes there's a smart way to do things. So I'll let you pick your course of action. Now I understand why people say you have to take the whole console off to get the switch out and replaced, because the plug that fits on the end of the switch that I unplugged from inside the car is actually too fat to fit underneath here and then through our very tiny opening here. There's some ledges under here under the console that thing will not fit the shape of. So I started weighing my options. I obviously could have gone through the trouble of taking the whole console off. That's really a very complicated procedure. You have to take the glove box off, you have to unhook a whole bunch of stuff, wiggle things, mess with the HVAC controls, a whole bunch of stuff I didn't want to do. So I'm going to try it this way. We're going to see if this is going to work. This could end in disaster. But what I did was I used my Lyle wire detacher tool. I don't know what the technical name is for this thing. Basically just these 2 little pronged ends, and I disconnected all 4 of the wires from the inside of the connectors here. So you can just unplug those using the tool, and detached each of the 4 individual wires. That enabled me to get the fat plug out of the way, and then pull all the wires through so that I could fish it out through the hole. So the original is fully out at this time. Now what I need to do is basically the same thing. I disconnected the new connector off my new one, and then I need to fish those wires through very gently, get them through to the right-hand side where I want them to go, and then reconnect my connector on the end. I think this is going to work. It's up to you if you want to attempt this way, but that's what I decided to do. So stick with me some more, and we'll see if this is a success, or if I end up having to tear everything apart, and then we'll go from there. But I think this will work, so cross your fingers. I'll be back in a minute. Alright, well I'm back, and I just want to say that did work. A little bit fiddly to get those wires fed through there, but eventually we got the wiring loom fed back through. And you can just kind of follow it down. I did a test fit here. I haven't zip tied it back into place, but it is hooked up to our connector. Reattached my white plug onto those wires after I took it off, and then plugged it back into the yellow connector. Since I detached it, if I really wanted to get crazy, I could put the yellow plug back on so it would match, but whatever, I'm not going to do that. So basically all that's left, oops, as I drop my light, is just going to zip tie this back together with these other wires, try to keep things as neat as possible. It is kind of messy underneath here. We're going to put the panel back on. I did already just try doing a test to make sure the sunroof worked, and I've re-disconnected the battery now, so I'm not going to display it right now, but I'll show you at the and that it is fully functioning. So just wanted to call out the reason why I was doing this in the first place. Kind of twofold. The switch was a little bit sticky in that you had to hit it several times sometimes to get the sunroof open. And then also just cosmetically, the decals on the switch were worn off, especially on my sunroof switch for some reason. So I will show you the finished product here after the cut, but we are pretty much nearing the finish line, and it was a very satisfying fix so far. So I'll give you an update here in a couple minutes. Alright, so here we are with an update, and believe it or not, it's actually 2 weeks later from the last video I shot. So what happened is I got my new sunroof switch, and the new part, when I was 99% done installing it, I realized was defective. So this was the new part I got, and if you look at this side, there is, it's a little hard to bend, a little metal clip here, but there should also be one on this side, and there wasn't. And so when I went to mount it into the console here, it actually would not snap into place and stay put at the base. So Roger and Mercedes at 928RS were very kind to expedite me a new switch while I was on vacation, and I was able to go through the whole process again today, which proves that this works, and reinstall everything. And the new switch, which I didn't film, does have both clips on both sides like it should. So I'm going to return the switch to them, and they're going to take care of me for that, which is great. But we are ready to test it out. Basically, we've got all of our switches mounted back in place. I've got my nice shiny new decals on the new switch, which really looks a lot better than the original one did. And I've got the key in the ignition, so we're going to go ahead and test it out. And you just push down to open the sunroof. So let me pan up here. I'll show you the little mail slot sunroof that this car has. And voila! It now opens, and let's see if it'll close. And it now closes, and it's so much smoother than the old switch. The old switch, it was very finicky. The internal contacts just kind of wear out on them, and you had to like jam on it or push really hard or push 20 times to get it to open or close. So this has obviously fixed my issue, but a little bit more complicated of a job than you would expect for such a simple switch replacement. Now I'm kind of getting the bug that I want to do them all, so I may end up tearing all into this again, but for now I'm happy, and the switch is working properly, and I'm going to return the defective switch. So we are all good. I'm going to call this a success. But thank you for watching. Hopefully this helps other 928 owners if you're curious about doing this job. And thanks for watching. Please take a moment, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I will talk to you soon. Have a great day or night, wherever you are.